And I definitely think Dungeon Meshi, as of right now, is probably in... Hey guys, welcome back to our Winter Draft Recap, or as I'm now calling it, Dungeon Meshi Hour. I'm not joined by Replay and Carter today because they had more important things to do, I guess. But I do want to welcome back friends of the program, Shaw and Dani. How you guys doing?
You want to go first?
Thank you. Doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry. I was supposed to be Carter at home, but now I'm Carter and Replay at home, even though I'm pretty sure both of them also record at home. So we're just all at home.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm actually exhausted because I was in London all day yesterday and I can't walk. So, no, I'm happy to be here.
And you had a wonderful experience with public transit as well, from what I was hearing.
Don't. I think it was up to like 5 hours worth of delays. Just the normal for British public transport, to be fair.
But Shaw, thank you for joining us at a last minute's notice. I also wanted to try and get under the scope on this as well, just to try and get all three of our guests on at the same time, but he was busy with something as well. So we might have a replay value appearance later on, but we'll see. He just doesn't care about
Can we turn this into Carter and Replay cannot accept their defeat, so they are cowardly?
Oh, you're so right. Yeah, you're right.
Accepting that they took the L.
They refused to show up after the result of our poll. Which, this time around, we're just gonna get right to that. I think we're not gonna do the reverse announcement like we did last time. So we'll go through the poll. I will go through the poll in reverse, but we'll just do the whole thing right now. In fourth place with a staggering 2.9% was my team.
Yay!
So figured I had lost after my draft. That was correct. Shout out to the probably 10 or 15 people who actually voted for me. I didn't deserve that.
It was just bots, really.
The
Shout out to the Twitter bots.
The 3 Blue Exorcist fans are the people who voted for me. Then in third place, with a surprisingly low 10.4%, and I can say that because he's not here, Carter finished in third place. So Carter and I just swapped from the fall season. Was very surprised by his result. I thought Soul Leveling got good ratings. A lot of people watched it. I thought he'd get a little bit more sort of strength in the poll, but those fans didn't show up for whatever reason. And then in third
like
place...
himself.
There you go. He deserved it.
They are at the same location as Carter, nowhere to be found.
And then in second place, surprisingly, because we thought he was going to win, was Replay with 28.6% of the vote. And then in first place, congratulations, Dani, 58.1%. We've only done 2 of these, but a by far a record in terms of how much of the vote that you were able to get.
I'll take that.
For a little behind the scenes here for anyone who didn't see the poll as it was going up, Replay was actually winning through the first 6 or 7 hours or so. But it was really close. I think it was like both you guys were in the 30% range. And then you retweeted the poll. And the Dungeon Meshi fans found the poll.
I just summoned everyone.
And you wound up winning by 30%, which is crazy.
Awesome.
What is that? 6 out of every 10, 3 out of every 5 people voted for you on the poll. That's crazy. What would you attribute to that to? Do you think you had a really well-balanced team, or do you think it was maybe the one show you had at the top that helped you win?
I think Dungeon Meshi was the strongest leader, definitely. But I think there are more fans of Classroom of the Elite than I thought there was. I saw some YouTube views and they all had over 100,000K, and I was like, where are these people coming from?
Yeah, I mean, you had the highest average rating of mouse score, so it's not scientific, but the highest average rating of your shows at 7.7. Then Replay at 4.49, Carter 3.33, and I had the first ever sub 7 average at 6.99. So,
yay!
Good for me.
New record! Yay!
We set records in both directions. In first place and fourth place on the poll. We set records. But it looks like we do have replay value showing up here in defeat. Unlike Carter, who decided not to show up at all, I guess.
What's up? I'm just here to give Dani their props. Incredible game.
Thank you.
You gotta respect it. When a goat comes through, you just gotta respect it.
Thank you.
But I definitely think it's well deserved. You know, maybe it didn't have to be that much of a beatdown, but I definitely think Dungeon Meshi was, by my accounts at least, the best show of still. I guess it's weird because it was the first core that we were voting on, because I feel like it's even better now as it moves on, but it definitely feels like it's been the best show that's come out this year so far, and it's only getting better. But how did you feel about the adaptation and stuff? You really happy with the adaptation?
I love it so much. I'm so happy with it. There was only like 2 or 3 like very, very minor things that I was like, I wish that would have been changed a little bit. And I think one of them was the OP of the first core. It was very slideshowy, especially for Trigger. But I really like the song though. I just feel like the visuals didn't match the upbeatness. I've just hit my mic of that. But I actually really like the second core OP, so I don't really mind. Other than that, I think it was just the soundtrack, I guess. Nothing really stood out to me for it, but literally other than that, I was like 100% happy with everything.
I agree. Undead Unwanted Adventure really is that kind of anime.
I was saying to these guys earlier, like I watched 8 episodes of Undead Unwanted, and I thought it was okay, but I thought it was a pretty good like competitor of Dungeon Meshi, just because it covered some similar like creatures and stuff in it, which just made you see just how much, I say this in the nicest way, but how much better Dungeon Meshi deals with those topics.
Totally.
That's fair.
I watched all of Undead Unwanted, and I thought it was fine. You know, it was fine.
What got me was because the main character's a skeleton. Every time he moves, it's like a bone crunching. Like you can just hear his skull every single time. It just cracked me up.
It really is kind of a, I don't know. It says something about the way we drafted that Unwanted Undead Adventurer was the 6th best show. Like this by rating was the 6th best show from our draft. Like it at 7.45. It's just. I was going through, I pulled a bunch of stats before we were recording, and, you know, we got 5 of the top 6 ranked shows. Dangers in My Heart, Solo Leveling, Sign of Affection, Dungeon Meshi, Classroom of the Elite. All had 8 or above. Dangers in My Heart almost had a 9, which was crazy. And then there were 9 shows that we did not draft between Classroom of the Elite and Unwanted Undead Adventurer at 8.0 and 8.45. So it just feels like we kind of missed the mark a little bit on a lot of our I mean, I missed the mark on every pick, that was very clear, but it just feels like as a whole, the shows that we thought were going to be good, like Metallic Rouge and Bucchigiri, were not at all. And then even the shows that like maybe had a chance to be good were middling at best. So it's kind of crazy how that broke out.
Metallic Rouge is particularly heartbreaking. I mean, obviously I wanted it to be good. I drafted it hoping it would be good. And I think if you like rewatch the first 2-3 episodes, you can see the like that there is a good baseline there that could have become something. But it just shows so obvious to me as time progresses and, you know, you go through the 12 episodes or 13. They wanted it to be 2 core and then they shrunk it down into 1 core. And also, it just didn't have, like, whatever skeleton I thought was there that could be built upon clearly wasn't that strong in the first place, because it completely misses the mark in terms of theming and basic writing competency. I don't want to be mean to Metallic Rouge, but it broke my heart a little bit.
Now, I'll be mean. It was really bad. I'm glad that I was saying this before. Your team was obviously really good, but I'm kind of glad that you lost just because I watched Metallic Rouge to see how it would turn out. And
I told you
feel
not
punished.
to.
No, I was there for the first 3 episodes when we were in the It's Good camp, and it did not turn out well. I don't know. I had like 5 bad shows on my turn, so no real shame in the game. And I wanted it to be good too, because it looked like it was cool to see like a Bones 25th anniversary anime original. Everyone wants more anime originals, but it was not the vibe. It did not work.
It being bad at least makes me feel better that I didn't. I mean, I still fumbled, but I didn't fumble. Because if I had taken, if I don't take Witch and the Beast and Blue Exorcist, I probably take Bucchigiri and Metallic Rouge, and those were 2 of the bottom 4 shows of the shows we picked. So like once you took a Sign of Affection, my draft was over, no matter what I had picked functionally.
It is so.
I'm still mad about that.
Dani, you won. You won and you got Dungeon Meshi. You don't get to be mad.
You needed to win by more.
It's so funny to me that Ian's draft in real time, everyone knew was a train wreck. And sure enough, and I said multiple times during the thing, I hope I'm wrong. And just week after week, more right. Fucking insane. Crazy. Ian, that will be the worst draft in this history.
I'm hoping, because that means that nobody else picked bad shows. It's just Blue Exorcist nobody watched. I mean, or at least nobody talked about it.
Is that the problem with sequel anime, Ian? It
is the problem with sequel anime, unless it's The Dangers in My Heart Season 2, then I guess it's not the problem.
Or Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2.
Or Classroom of the Elite Season 3.
Listen.
It felt like to me the oxygen on the season was Frieren and Apothecary Diaries still for most of it. And then we got to they finished, Dungeon Meshi kept going, and everyone was like, oh wait, what's this great show that's been here the whole fucking time? It's Game Changers samurai shit. And I just was, and as someone who not even remotely in Dani's weight class in terms of Dani is the heavyweight fighter of I love Dungeon Meshi. I'm going to destroy everyone with my love for Dungeon Meshi. But as the welterweight fighter of I really enjoyed this manga, it's been great to see, truly.
Yeah, it's definitely picked up more in terms of its tone, but even fan interactions with it over in the second core. But it's exactly like you said, it's because Apothecary Diaries and Frieren aren't around anymore, so it's got its time to shine even more than anything else.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a season that was just dominated by the carryover shows from the fall, which probably is why some of those other shows weren't able to break through.
And now Dungeon Meshi is consuming all of the
air
in the new season, which is great.
We do love to see 2 core series, especially when they seem to really take off in the second core. So I'm a fan of that. And I think what's cool is about Dungeon Meshi as well is that it's been pretty popular but gotten more popular. But something I like to say that I really don't want to jinx it by saying this, but I feel like I don't see people who hate Dungeon Meshi, and I feel like that comes across really well. A lot of times shows get really popular or acclaimed, and you always have someone who's like, I don't like this, so I'm gonna kind of they either never liked it and they come up with why they don't like it with a hot take, or they kind of formulate a reason as to why it was not as good as everyone thinks it is. But we don't see people doing that with Dungeon Meshi, and I feel like it's because the quality really is there. It's really refreshing. It's doing really creative, funny things. It looks great. It's a great adaptation based on what Dani said. I still have to read it, but it has all the pieces. Yes, I'm working on it, but but yeah, it has all the pieces. So I feel like it's just a very comfortable show that also it seems like everyone who's watching it seems to appreciate in some way. If you don't, I don't want to hear it, so please don't take this as an opportunity to be I never liked Dungeon Meshi because I don't care and I'm ignoring you. So thanks.
Get in
and
the
I'll be on
comment
you
and tell Shaw how much you dislike Dungeon Meshi. We're farming engagement.
No.
How long did it take?
I choose not to see.
When did the Frieren stuff happen? That was towards the end of the anime's run, right? Because I remember Frieren was everybody loved it, everybody loved it. Oh,
it was just
I just didn't see it then.
Yeah.
It was twofold. It was so there was some pushback to the slavery. No, not the slavery arc. The demon arc. Oh yeah. Whoops. Speaking of, no, just kidding. No, this
The
demon
yeah.
arc in season 1 that got some pushback because people didn't like how it was handled. And then there was at the end of then when the second quarter started being more actiony, people didn't like that. And then when it got to be number 1 on Mal and it wasn't immediately getting kicked off, then they didn't like that as well. So I would call that a combination of some understandable complaints and some Mal bullshit that like no one should care about. But that's a different category.
So did Dangers in My Heart season 2? That was the highest of anything last season. That's crazy.
I said the exact same.
It's a great show, but I don't think it should be outranking. I mean, Dungeon Meshi's not done, so it feels wrong to rank it at this point. Like,
Yeah,
I
even
personally
beat
haven't
Kingdom.
rated it. So.
And nobody
Wow,
beats Kingdom.
it
It
beat
beat
Kingdom? No shot. No one beats Kingdom.
So if you take Kingdom off the list there, it beat solo leveling by literally like half a point, because it was at 8.8 and solo leveling was at 8.3.
Great adaptation, gotta say. I thought I took Dangers in My Heart off Rex, and was very impressed with.
I took The Witch and the Beast off Rex.
Yeah, well, you're the person who you were getting those Rex from. Didn't know. Didn't have the anime season 1 to go off of, unlike my Rex. Yeah. I thought Dangers in My Heart was really good. I was really impressed. I mean, that OP is iconic already. It's crazy how quickly that happens. Very cute character dynamics. I thought season 2 was a big step up from season 1 in terms of like the character writing as well, which he got better. Like, damn, he actually got better. Yeah, I think my 2 rom-coms worked out really well for me. Dani, did you like the Sign of Affection adaptation?
I really enjoyed it. It didn't make as much noise as I thought it was gonna. But I was a bit like 50-50 on the ending. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't watched, but it was very like, I doubt there's going to be any more seasons.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Okay.
They kind of like how Land of the Lustrous season 1 ended, where it's like, it kind of went a little bit anime only for the last like 10 minutes, but you could still have a second season.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Orange, please.
Yeah. They kind of like there's like they showed like a bit more with like one of the couples that would normally be like in the series, so it's kind of like it's a good way. You put it really well, where it's like they could definitely pick up a season 2, or this could just be it, so to be determined.
The manga sales for it are like insane, so I don't think it would have had any larger of a push, to be honest. So if that's what they were kind of expecting to get a good idea as to whether to do a second season, I don't know. But I don't think even I don't think that Dungeon Meshi's had a big manga push either, to be honest, from what I know.
Not here, at
But-
least, because I can't find it in any bookstore.
Wow.
I can't find it in English in any bookstore I go to, so...
I thought the Sign of obviously I haven't read the manga, so I can't speak to adaptation, but I thought the color work in Sign of Affection was really, truly incredible. I was really impressed by how beautifully directed it was, which isn't surprising. Kakashi Goto's director. We talked about this in the draft itself, but I thought it honestly was more visually impressive than I thought it was going to be, given the Kakashi Goto bona fides. I thought the color work was immaculate. Thought the animation on the signing looked incredible. I was several points just rewinding over and over again to like see the small adjustments in the drawings. It was truly a fantastic watch. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. Probably, I'd say it was my second favorite after Dungeon Meshi from last season, not including Apothecary Diaries and Frieren.
So
same.
You'd put it over Dangers in My Heart.
Dangers in My Heart. Yeah, for like, if I were to score them out of 10, which I personally don't do, I'd give them the same score. And in terms of like my personal, like, and then like for those small internal ranking, I would go 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think I would have Dungeon Meshi 1, Sign of Affection 2, and then I guess solo leveling 3, because I never did catch up.
Nah,
to
dude,
Dangers
you'd
in My
put
Heart.
Pon no Michi 3 for sure. Come on. I definitely wasn't the only person who watched Pon no Michi last season.
Remarkable. It was 15th in scoring out of our 16 shows, and 16th in amount of people who watched it on Mal. I
I
had
don't
half
think it
as many.
deserves to be ranked that low. It is a very inoffensive slice of life about mahjong. It should not be ranked that low.
What did you think about Sengoku Youko?
Oh, okay. Well, my favorite fucking anime ever. No, I mean, so Ian will play the clip.
Sengoku Youko.
No shot. Took this.
I'm so fucking mad. That is still my reaction because I think Sengoku Youko was the best anime from last season over Dungeon Meshi. It's incomplete, obviously. I'm looking forward to the second core. No, I know I'm speaking sacrilege, but just hear me out. Sengoku Youko is just so fucking good. Everything. Oh, I fucking love that. I love the adaptation, and I was so nervous about the adaptation because of Biscuit Hammer. The Biscuit Hammer adaptations are so fucking dog shit. Sorry, excuse my language.
You're gonna get me ads restricted.
Yeah, again. Jeez. Well, I mean, you hate crime to be in the last one, so that's your fault.
That is not true. Like that on the record.
Yes, it is. I thought Sengoku Youko doesn't have like so White Fox did a great job in terms of updating it from moving it from manga to anime. Thought those like adaptational changes were really good. The story in the first core is the weakest of the bunch. I said this in the draft itself, but I think it did a really good job of setting the stage. And I'm sure we've all had that experience of manga you love that you just like one day want to see it animated. The scenes that you've thought about what they'll look like animated. And for me, it hit on every single one of those moments that I was like, I cannot wait to see this. I cannot wait to see this character. What's this character going to look like and sound like? How are they going to handle like this, and this? And the music was so good. I could not believe, I just love Sengoku Youko so much. It will be my favorite anime this year, assuming the third core is in this year. We'll see. But yeah, for me, it's my anime of the year. And that has nothing to do with Dungeon Meshi not being incredible. It totally is. It purely comes down to I am a lover of Satoshi Mizukami's works more than anything. They speak to me in a way that is hard to quantify. I'm the heavyweight hitter for the Sengoku Youko adaptation. That's where I'm at.
Why do you think it didn't catch on as much? I mean, do you think it's going to, in the next couple cores, or do you think it's just going to kind of live as like a underrated, good adaptation of a good manga?
It's a great question. I obviously cannot speak to anyone else, but I think that Sengoku Youko of the like three big Mizukami works is the third. So you have Spirit Circle, which I think most people would put number one. Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer is number two, and then Sengoku Youko would be like the third big one. Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, terrible adaptation. People were probably like, well, I'm not going to bother reading this. I'm not going to bother watching this for that reason. And then I think it starts really slow. I don't know did any of you three give it a try? So that's another problem, is that people aren't trying it. Probably because people like me haven't made videos on it yet to be like, please watch Sengoku. You know what? Actually, hold on 1 second. I have to make a note. Make Sengoku Youko video. That'll be next. I think it just starts slow a little bit, and you don't get a sense of what the story is until literally the end of what is the first core. And then the second core kicks in and you're like, oh, now I see what the point of this all is. So that's a little bit rough. My hope is that the second core will happen. People will be like, oh my God, how are people not talking about this? We'll get a little bit of that Dungeon Meshi support, because Dungeon Meshi will be done by the time the second core starts airing, and we'll see what happens. Sengoku Youko fans, to my aid. Sorry, we really don't have to keep talking about Sengoku Youko.
One thing that I really liked about Dungeon Meshi, kind of like outside of like the animation and the show in general, is like the stuff outside of it. Like, I thought the dub was amazing. It's like just as good as the sub for me, which I think helped a lot, especially with it being on Netflix. But it's been the merchandise for me that's just, it's been cracking me up. I don't know if people have seen like, there was these Senshi chopsticks where like you split him in half. You can like, there's just so many weird merchandise that's so fitting for the show. And like even just like all the figures and stuff, like I think that's what any, like whether the anime is going to be like terrible or not, at least you know if there's an anime, there's a higher chance there's going to be merchandise for like a manga that you love. And that, like, I would have been happy enough with that, but the show being good in general was just like the cherry on top.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Dani, when are we going to see the Lines in Motion return to the world of Dungeon Meshi, but now animated? When's that video drop?
I'd love to release it this year, but I want to be a bit cheeky and see how other channels are doing with copyright with it first, because like other trigger stuff that I've covered, and I know it's because it's like different, you know, distributors and stuff, but my promo video got taken down, bloody mole beat. And then I know a friend who's Kill la Kill stuff got flagged for copyright, so I'm like, I've just not had the best of luck with them. But if I can get away with, like, my Mother's Basement is bound to talk about it, so if he can get away with it and other channels can, then it'll be out this year.
But do you think that some of the appeal, because this is some of the stuff I've been seeing people talking about Dungeon Meshi at this point in time, I think we're 19 episodes in right now while we're recording, somewhere around there. Part of the appeal is the fact that it's one of those stories that it starts off a little more like upbeat, and it's more like, because I feel like a lot of people I know are like, oh, I'm watching because they're cooking, it's funny, and they're cooking the monsters, and then around the end of the first core was when it kind of starts really shifting, to me at least, shifting towards the more darker themes of the story and the more like direct, this is the plot of this story that we're telling. It's not just like we're having fun eating monsters sort of story.
I mean, I can't remember if I said it in the other video or not about comparing it to Full Metal Alchemist in that sense. Like how that started off a little bit episodic at the beginning, and then it like just as it gradually goes on really kicks off. You meet other cast members who all then slowly join together towards the end, and it gets like, I won't say it gets darker, but I guess it just goes down like a different route than what it started with. And I'd say Dungeon Meshi is the exact same. I have seen a few people say like, oh, I watched it for like the adorable cooking kind of aspects of it, but the first episode starts with Farling getting eaten. So I'm just like, yeah, the premise was there from the start. Like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, they were like trying to time like the reason they have to rush back in is so they can beat her getting ingested and digested. Like, yeah, when you think about it, it's like, yeah, it's not looking too good. So
I just think it was really interesting to me as someone who had not read the manga, or still haven't, but had not read it before the show came out. All I had ever heard from the fans was, I guess you guys are really good at not spoiling stuff, which is rare for a manga reader community, of just like, oh, look at these, look at the funny characters, and look at their, like, it was like, just look at the cooking. Like, all I knew about the series before I started watching it was that they eat monsters and they cook monsters, and that's it. I didn't even know until we discussed it in the draft that the premise was that Fallen gets eaten and they have to go rush back. I didn't even know that was part of the premise at all until we talked about it. And so I think that has been a really interesting thing to watch it go from like, oh, look at this funny show, to like, no, look at this, like, you know, full fantasy story that we're telling.
To Dani's point, similar to Full Metal Alchemist, I think Dungeon Meshi does a really good job of like laying the groundwork early that, you know, here's all, like, it's very clear to me that there was a like planned document of here's what the world is like, here's every aspect of what the world is, and we're going to like pull things from it in the early chapters to like give you a sense, give you a taste rather of what might be coming up later, and then getting to like fully execute on the vision of that like more full rich world over the course, and like, you know, but pulling you in through this, I don't want to say innocuous, because as we all agree, it's not really an innocuous premise, but pulls you in through the comedy. And then also, I don't feel like they ever really lose the like goofy faces, the absurd moments, like those things never really disappear. They're a part of the show's DNA. And that's something that keeps the people who might not be there for like the more deep, digestive introspection of like what it means. Well, I don't want to get into spoilers. But yeah, that stuff is still there if that's what you're holding on for. That never really leaves. That's always a part of the story.
The cast stays stupid.
Exactly. Yeah. They add stupid characters all the fucking time. In fact, you get to the end of the story, they're still adding stupid characters. It's crazy.
I think the only spoiler I was scared of people seeing was, and I'll try and say this to not spoil as well, was a certain character who came in last episode who is a very popular character who joins the main cast. And then, how do I even say this? How kind of like the end of the first core finishes, like the beginning of this core and the end of the last one, like those few episodes.
Yeah.
Like what actually happens to then, because I think a lot of people thought that the story was going to end with them getting to Farlin, and it's like, well, actually that's like 25% of the way through. Or at least like kind of anyways, I should say.
Yeah, that was the moment that's why I really like the Full Metal Alchemist comparison, because that moment to me mirrored I'm not going to spoil Full Metal, but like I feel like most people have seen it, but there's a moment that features like a prominent character death in Full Metal. That's like the switch to me where it starts to really become like, it's like a very more serious story of intrigue and stuff. And the end of the first core of Dungeon Meshi was that moment for me. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you know, now this is this feels like it's the same show, but it feels like a different, like we've kind of switched to a more serious tone interspersed with jokes instead of a jokey tone interspersed with a more serious premise. And so that's why I really like that comparison, because I feel like they do kind of match up in that way at the very least.
But I think it's also a good comparison because something I like that both series do in regards to kind of maybe how like we all perceive the tone of the show is also playing with the perspectives for how the actions of the main character groups are perceived. Like I think a big part of like the beginning of Dungeon Meshi is like, eating monsters is weird. Like anyone who does that is a weirdo. Like they're kind of looked down upon. And then that kind of idea of like how our main group is perceived is both formulated from inputs from other characters that we meet, but then it's also kind of shifted. And that kind of also is a huge part of Full Metal Alchemist where, we have our perspective of Ed and Al, but then we see how other people in the similar occupation sees them. And that insight that we get from them also changes our perspective on the actions that have transpired and of like how serious the actions they've taken that have led to where they are, trying to not spoil all series at time, but essentially just like you get a sense of how hardcore the characters are based on the perceptions of other people when they're like, wait, you did the thing, you're not supposed to do the thing, now you're like ruining everything essentially.
Yeah, I think what I just remembered I was going to say was like, I know a lot of manga fans were saying that it does hit this like tonal shift, but it's like just a very like, it's like a really slight one. It's like not bam, all of a sudden it's like the darkest story ever. And I think some people were thinking it's going to turn into some like berserk kind of really dark and something you can't get back from kind of story. But it's like the change is so like minute in a way where it's like you can tell it's happened, but at the same time you're like, oh, where did that change kind of come from? And like it's just done so well in that sense.
Dani, should you be bringing up Berserk? Is that okay? Are we gonna get destroyed
no, because
on Twitter now?
No, because I didn't mind Berserk, to be fair. It just wasn't. It just wasn't for me. Like my video talks about.
No, I know that's why I said.
I thought you were talking about Ian for a second until I remembered it. I was like, what? Like
if I wanted to razz Ian, I'd be like, is Chainsaw Man really related to insert X. Everything
Now
is
that I-
Chainsaw Man
Getting
with
a lot of
Ian.
Chainsaw Man
Crazy.
vibes from Dungeon Meshi, personally.
Yeah. Tell us about
I've
the
saw a lot of that. I mean, there's a lot of eating involved. That kind of is a thing. Wow, it's really cool that they actually had so many Chainsaw Man references in the last episode. So, Ian, I think we got it. You can do it.
Look,
You gotta
I
make the
already
kid-
got-
I'm actually realizing that there is a really strong. You could make an
Yeah.
argument that actually,
No,
it's
I will.
crazy.
I will
That's
not
crazy.
spoil Chainsaw Man again in relation to Ian, which I have. I've spoiled someone while replying to Ian on
Yeah,
Chainsaw
luckily
Man.
not me. Someone else spoiled me
Yeah,
on Chainsaw
I wouldn't do
Man.
that,
You
but
spoiled
someone else caught the
else
stray,
talking to me.
so- Yeah, so I won't spoil everyone again in Ian's presence on Chainsaw Man, but when you watch Dungeon Meshi, it's essentially Chainsaw Man in a dungeon.
Do you think
That's-
there's a
it's essentially
desire
the same thing.
demon in the Chainsaw Man universe?
No, so yes. For some reason, I'm answering your question seriously. I'm sure that exists. But
I think, oh my god, if like Laius and the cast was in Chainsaw Man, that story would have been over in like 5 minutes. They would have ate Pochita so quickly.
there has to be art.
Really?
of
Like-
it, right?
And the tomato demon in chapter 1 as well. Tomato
Yeah.
demon also would have gotten eaten.
My goodness.
But there's like a literal reference to Dungeon Meshi in Fire Punch, because Fujimoto is such a big fan of Dungeon Meshi. So it's always funny to see the little references that he does actually throw in some of the stories.
Wait, what's the
I can
what's
see
the
it.
Dungeon Meshi reference in Fire Punch? How did I miss that?
It's in one of like the the little what they're called now. Like after a chapter ends, and sometimes they'll have like the little story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's when Marcel does that like stupid dance where she goes like, upside down, and she's like, no, I'm not eating that. It's that reference. It's that dance, like
Oh,
picture for picture.
that's incredible.
I'll
Wow.
have to find it on Twitter and send it you.
Please do. That's so. My God.
I don't even know how
Or
we
did you just
got.
send it, Ian?
No, I sent art. I literally just looked up. I was like, I wonder if there's probably art
Oh,
of
that's so
Chainsaw
funny.
Man and Dungeon Meshi art. And yeah, it's
Please include that in the video and source whoever originally.
yeah. I will leave it up so I can source who drew it. But essentially, to describe it while it's on screen, it's Denji saying it's the like I think we're gonna have to kill this guy. Except Denji saying I think we're gonna have to eat this guy, and Laios is like damn, but he's like blushing and clearly excited about it.
It's so good. Anyway, this is my new desire. I want to read the Chainsaw Man X Dungeon Meshi combined universe fan fiction. Someone get on that ASAP.
I think the two fandoms that you see, or at least when it was manga only, that you saw in comparison with Dungeon Meshi was Golden Kamuy. You'd see that all the time. And Dorohedoro, you'd see those three together constantly because of like that eating and motif and it getting slightly darker and that. But yeah, it's funny seeing so many Chainsaw Man fans love the story as well.
What's
It's a
the?
great story.
That
What's
sounds
not?
like a great group of series. Like that's like peak crossover. I think that's like the best vibes. It's the opposite of Nightmare Blunt Rotation. It's ideal Blunt Rotation for a series. Sorry, you can cut that out, Ian. I don't know if
No,
you'll
I
get
thought you were gonna make
demonetized.
a big three joke and antagonize
Yeah, I also
like
thought
a
the
large
big
amount
three
of
joke was
people.
coming.
No.
The big three
Those are my
seinen.
Big three. Big three seinen.
new gen, big three. Eating
All complete
edition.
series.
Blunt rotation.
All complete. Can't wait for the next one to pop up.
Oh my God, what is happening here?
So the only other show.
You can trade me out for Carter now to get monetized, so that's not run the risk of demonetization.
Like the only person who's demonetized one of these videos is Mr. Under the Scope, so you're fine, Sha.
The leash
Wow.
outcome. Of course, a Jack video got you demonetized. That is actually the Danny, for context, every
Peak
time
fiction.
that Jack and Ian hang out, they watch sports, and whatever if Ian's team is playing, they lose 100% of the time.
Every
It's
time.
literally, like
Undead unluck.
naturally. Yeah, we're at like 12 examples at this point. It's not a coincidence. So.
Oh my
Like,
God.
So the fact that Jack came on,
He has brought me deep emotional trauma and continues to do so.
It's literally
How
the
did I not
unluck thing.
realize?
It's every time. I can't believe you let him in
Wow.
your house for the Ravens game. That was a
That
bad
was so
call on your part.
stupid. Just so
I
dumb.
mean, we were trying to break the
That
curse.
was your
We
fault.
didn't break the curse.
He's not breaking the
You
curse.
just,
It's not happening.
if you fear that like you're gonna get demonetized for this video, you just need to put like a Marcel screaming noise on top of like a curse word or something.
You're right. We can do Dungeon Meshi censor noises. There we go.
Actually,
Problem solved. Well, there were two that I just wanted to touch on there at my shows real quick. The Witch and the Beast I thought was better than we thought it was going to be, but we thought it was going to be awful. I think it was just like,
Production Lab saved me.
yeah, I mean, Yokohama Animation Lab, yeah, not good. But the production wasn't that good, so it wasn't good enough to enhance the story. My biggest surprise was I thought the story was like fine. I don't know if it gets better after the animes section, or because for how much I heard about the manga, I kind of expected it to be like, oh well, it's gonna look bad, but at least like I'll be engaged by what the story's doing, and I wasn't super engaged by what the story was doing. So I think the 7.4 is honestly probably a little generous, but it did feel like a 7. It didn't feel like it was like a 6 or a 5, but I shouldn't have taken it in the first round. Probably shouldn't have taken it at all. Anyway, and then Ishura was the weirdest show of my group because I feel like it should be good, but it also feels so much like a dense light novel that just got adapted into an anime without much thought or care. Like the first 4 episodes are all like setting up the different players and the political landscape of the story, and then the story kind of starts from there. And it's all really interesting. The world building's actually pretty interesting, but it's just like not like, it just feels like something you have to read. Like it feels like you're missing something when you're not reading it. And to make matters worse, for some reason, at least the episodes I watched, they would introduce new characters and have a lower third of like who they were, and Hulu just didn't translate the lower third. So I was just like, okay, well, don't know who this is.
Hulu's translation is like really bad, and I feel like that also
Terrible.
holds back like you don't want your show to get Hulu zoned.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
Undead Unluck would have done much better
Yep.
on Crunchyroll. And the only thing I wanted to
and then,
note for Ishura, actually, was that there is a Yuri subplot in the first 30 seconds of the show with one of the main characters, and then they kill the love interest very brutally on screen.
My ears literally perked up.
I saw that happen in real time. It's like
I thought it looked
like neurons activated.
Well, I was like, what? I was
It's
like, oh,
wait a
what's
minute,
this?
no.
Wait, I thought that. What is this? What's this show doing here? And then it's like hard cut. They get like a montage together, and then it's like hard cut. Oh, she's dead now. Okay. Anyway.
Oh my days.
It's also gratuitous, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's way too violent.
It's way too violent.
It's like I almost stopped.
Even shonen moms don't get this.
The whole first episode is just like the whole first episode is insane. Like I was like, this is gonna be nuts, and then immediately falls off a cliff in terms of my interest.
In the UK, you can watch that on Apple TV. That is so odd.
What? I didn't even know they.
Interesting.
I love
that.
licensing. It's so normal and good.
Yeah, it's either Disney Plus or Apple TV. That is so odd. Well,
that-
I know what I'm not watching.
I feel like. Oh no, I guess. Did Metallic Rouge have any like sapphic themes at all, or did they kind of fumble on that?
I didn't hear about it if they did.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I felt like they fumbled it.
They like, you know, it's the fucking usual bullshit of, it's 2 female coworkers who are very close, and they're the best of friends, but definitely not like that. It's one of those. I have so many Metallic Rouge thoughts that I need to share with someone, and I can't. There's
like
no
the
one.
place.
No one gives a shit. No one gives a shit. What's up?
Yeah, but this does seem like the place to share those thoughts.
Oh.
Like
I just
this
like.
is it. This is the funeral for Metallic
There
Rouge.
is a random hallway scene that is so insanely well animated, and the whole time, and it's
Oh,
like,
I've seen
it's
it, yeah.
way too
I've
late.
seen it,
It's
too.
way too late in the episode, and it's also this crazy character reveal that, like, I don't think anyone saw coming, in retrospect, it kind of makes sense. Anyway, fucking wild. This hallway scene, my jaw hit the floor, and I was like, where has this been? Just where has this been for 7 episodes? I was so mad. I was so mad. And the writing is so atrociously bad. They ruined Claire de Lune. I didn't think it was possible, but they ruined one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever written because they play it all the fucking time. God, it's,
Love it.
it honestly is so like. I'm trying to figure out where it falls in my pantheon of I hate this anime, because
Is it worse than Kato?
it actually is 100% worse than Kato.
Wow.
I don't think it's worse than Babylon, and I don't think it's worse than like Guilty Crown and Ulysses, which are kind of my like bottom 3. Yeah. It's the thing that frustrates me is that it clearly has the talent. The music is incredible. Like I listen to Crimson Lightning all the time. It's so randomly such a banger. And there's so many other good themes in that soundtrack. The characters are like the characters should be interesting. They're just not written well. The world is interesting. It's just not written. Like at every single moment where something could be good or done well, it feels like they actively chose not to do the interesting thing. And then at the end of the day, the fucking theme of the thing is, should robot androids have civil rights? And that's like the least interesting storyline on the planet at this point. Because like either you read it as allegory for a persecuted group in our world today, and it just doesn't like cleanly associate like that, or you have to take it entirely at its face as like this supposedly theoretical concept that is unrealistic and will probably like, we are not in a position where like android rights fucking matters. And this is, there's so many other fucking problems in this world. I can't even fucking anyway. Yeah, no, it's a fucking train wreck, and I hate it. God, why did they do this to me?
Detroit Become Human, anime edition.
It's really tough when like it's like essentially Blade Runner, but then they tried to do Blade Runner, but if anyone wants the same things, they could just go to Blade Runner. So it's kind of tough.
Blade Runner is infinitely more interesting because it actually asks questions about the human experience. Like, but these characters are explicitly not human, and they don't have a human experience. It's fucking wild.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
welcome.
Okay, Carter, it's your time to defend your team right now. Go.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, honestly, His Time for Torture is the only one I really want to defend. Great show. I think that if more people watched it, they would have really liked it. I think it did decently on Mal, like had like a 7 something, but
7.36.
yeah, just a great like weekly wholesome enjoy it anime. It's kind of similar to the Mr. Villain's Day Off type of vibes, honestly. But yeah, I liked it a little better than Mr. Villain's Day Off. But yeah, that was for 4th pick. I was really happy with it. Unfortunately, the rest of my team was pretty mid, all across the board. So
Were you as disappointed by Bucchigiri as I was?
I was. Honestly, I liked the first half a lot though. It had some very like chaotic energy, and you know, visually it was nice. It was pretty fun through the first like 6-7 episodes or so. And then you know, it hits a little bit of a turning point where the main character is already kind of annoying and not likable. And then like one of the other main characters becomes like really edgy and dark, and it's like that for the rest of the show. It's just not very satisfying. The ending was good. I like the last episode, but aside from that, it was definitely disappointing, especially in the context of like a skate, which I was kind of expecting. Definitely didn't live up to that hype, but yeah, I would say Bucchigiri definitely a letdown, especially in the second half.
It just made me sad, right? I love Skate so much that I really wanted it to just be like a spiritual successor to Skate, and it just from the opening, just from the first episode, the main character is unlikable,
Yeah,
And that
very
already-
different vibes from the main character.
and so it's just, I don't know. Some of the side characters were fun. I think some of the fights were fun, but it was never like, I never cared. I never really cared about what was going on, and that was kind of the detriment of the story. And then, what do you think about solo leveling, Carter? What do you think about solo leveling?
So my opinion on solo leveling is that, like, I think episode 2 and the situation they're in the second episode with, like, the statue of God or whatever, and they have all those people and they're trying to figure out, like, how to maneuver this dungeon and these puzzles and stuff, was, like, by far the most interesting thing that happens in the entire show. From after that, it kind of turns into, like, not monster of the week, but, like, he's just fighting, like, a big snake, big spider. Like, there's some interesting parts of the world that get explored with some of the other characters, and you get hints at, like, the higher ups, like the top bosses of this world that are, you know, the best hunters and whatnot. So maybe that could be interesting in the future, but for now I was pretty let down by the story in general. And I think that if you're relying on the action that heavily, it needs to be a little higher quality. Like, it had its moments of, like, really nice animation and stuff, but it wasn't, you know, Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, the kind of thing that I'm maybe holding too highly of expectations for those types of shows now. But I would say overall, also a disappointment, and obviously the voters did not show up for that one, so.
I was surprised that, we talked about this earlier, but I was surprised that you only got 10% of the vote, despite having the most popular,
Brutal.
conventionally popular show.
Yeah, I was hoping, you know, based off of the first draft, like, oh, it's only up from here, and I did go up one
You did.
percentage.
I went
so.
down and you went up. So,
Yeah, but all in all, I'm not too upset with where I ended up in the vote. Like I said, I wish more people would have seen "'Tis Time for Torture," but I kind of understand why I was third, especially when you have the big hitters of Dungeon Meshi and what was replays?
A Sign of Affection and
Sign of Affection.
The Dangers in My Heart season 2.
Oh, right, Dangers in My Heart. But Sign of Affection especially was super good, and Dungeon Meshi's been a blast. So
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this draft went in terms. Well, I mean, guys, I am not happy personally about how it went, but I think the right team won, and I think the right team got. Like, I feel like all the placements were totally fair. I definitely deserved to get last place. I definitely think Dani deserved to win, and I definitely think Dungeon Meshi, as of right now, is probably in. I guess it depends on how you. I don't ascribe to the fact that fall shows are supposed to be considered the weird Crunchyroll thing, where fall shows are considered the next year. So I think right now Dungeon Meshi is probably in the driver's seat for Anime of the Year, right?
Probably, yeah. I'd put it up there.
yeah,
I feel like it's inevitable that it will be in the Anime of the Year discussion no matter what. Like, no matter what happens, it's always going to be in the discussion. So I think if you have it already, Anime of the Year, that's pretty valid.
Isn't Demon Slayer out this season though? I feel like just that alone is gonna like.
I don't know about that. I've seen some things.
Oh.
I've seen some things. The 10
Some
second
things.
stare from the opening is like,
yeah.
Oh.
The opening's not good. It was so
Yeah.
weird.
it's
Usually
very
their
bad.
openings are like decent.
Big.
I don't know what's happening.
Is that just where he's just staring into your soul?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, did my computer freeze, or is this the opening? And then it's like,
because
nope,
it's
that's
not
the
even
opening.
it's not even the title card that they hold on too long, like some openings will do. It's just it's just Tanjiro staring into the screen.
For like 10 seconds. So if that's any indication of how the season will be, I think Dungeon Meshi is in for good. It's gonna be clear.
A lot of OP discourse this season.
Something someone brought up for winter season, that when I posted the poll and I did everyone's shows, I got a lot of comments that were like, where is Bravern? And they're like, where is this show? And I think they didn't realize I'm not picking like my favorites, because I was being vague on purpose for the poll.
Yeah.
But like, it seems like that I would call the hidden gem, naturally no one would have known to draft that over the shows everyone did, because everyone did a good job, kind of, not Ian, sorry, but everyone mostly did a good job drafting the
I didn't
shows.
have the two worst
but
shows of the
I don't think anyone-
season. Replay had the two worst shows of the season.
I think overall we did
Sure,
a pretty
I-
bad job, to be honest. But
We did pretty poorly.
But as you said, like, I don't think there would be like any red flags to not draft like Bucchigiri or you know, Metallic Rouge or the Witch and the Beast. Like, those were all like obvious
Well,
picks
Witch
if
and
you
the
were
Beast
gonna
had red
do it at
flags,
the
but
beginning.
thank you for making me feel better.
It was like an understandable one, but the Brave Bang Bravern show, that seems like the hidden gem that a lot of people are really liking, that I didn't watch. I'll go back and watch, but that seems like the sneaky pick for people.
yeah, definitely.
So if anyone's in the comments like, where is it? It's not here.
One of the ones I definitely think we fumbled was Mashal, because Mashal got was one of the highest scoring shows of the season. It was 7th for the season, and it had like 300,000 people watched it. And the opening, I mean, who knew the opening was going to go viral like it did? But
If I knew it was creepy nuts, things would have been different.
should have looked into it, I guess.
And replay specifically fumbled 7th Time Loop, the villainous show.
Yeah,
So
to have the
they
villainous
specifically
guy
fumbled.
not take one of the villainous show, because even 99, like level 99 or whatever the other villainous show is, also did pretty well too. Obviously 7th Time Loop was the one that did the best, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what the other one is called.
And this was the
Villainous level
season with the magical girl show, right? I don't think any of us were gonna pick that, but it did get talked about quite a bit. So.
Yeah, gushing over magical girls did really well for a specific reason, and I think that was also the specific reason at least I didn't want to take it. So
Valid.
Double-edged sword.
if anyone else have anything they want to talk about, is anyone want any other Dungeon Meshi thoughts, any other thoughts on the season as a whole?
Oh, there is one thing I wanted to say that's been cracking me up each time they've done it, is that they've been doing like the YouTube Zoom kind of thing, like the digital Zoom like
Yes,
meme
yes,
kind
yes,
of
yes, yes.
template. That has been so funny. They did I think it was episode 5 as well. It's when Marcel picks up one of those like coin bug things, and it's exactly like a YouTube edit where it just like fades into black. It's like such like a YouTube kind of edit.
They had an incredibly funny shot, like last episode, the episode before, where it was just like her reaching out towards the screen, and it reminded me of that meme of the emoji where it's like grabbing the screen, and it was really funny.
Oh yeah, I saw you post about that on Twitter, I think.
Yeah, they do the visual comedy really well too, and I don't know how much of that's in the manga versus Trigger kind of making stuff up.
They've added like some elements like that zoom in thing and stuff like that, but the comedy in the manga's pretty top tier in general, to be fair.
Easy to adapt.
I just don't know if they're gonna do like adapt all of it is the issue. I'm gonna assume like if this is done well that they'd maybe do like another 13 episode season if they don't like rush this core, I guess. But I hope so, because I've really enjoyed Trigger doing an adaptation for once, because I know they did the one on the light novel years ago, but
Yeah.
if this is a sign of them like having one project ever so often where they're doing an adaptation, like I'm not gonna say no.
But it was a good season for adaptations. You know, our top 5, 6, wow, basically all of our top shows were adaptations, and all the few originals that we did take a shot on were bad, so that's upsetting. I like when original anime are good. But overall, you know, I think we did all right. I don't think we did great. We missed a lot of shows, but a lot of them were isekai, a lot of them were shows that I just don't think we were personally interested in. Just unfortunate that the shows we were interested in turned out to not be very good. So I apologize for that. It's my fault directly. But Dani, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for coming back
thank you for
for
having
the
me.
recap, and love always to talk to you about Dungeon Meshi and anything else.
Oh, give me any reason to talk about Dungeon Meshi and I will.
Shaw, thank you for subbing in for, I guess, both Replay and Carter, and then each of them individually throughout the course of this.
Thank you for letting me input random thoughts into your on Replay's downfall, because I'm glad Dani won for the guest spot, and so we don't have a
Congratulations.
back-to-back winner. Yay! Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks
so
for having me.
The guest spot has now finished in first and second. Replay has now finished in first and second, and Carter and I have not done those things.
Here's to you guys winning or coming in first or second.
We're not.
Both
so
of you
like
first and
the
second next time.
spring is already been decided
It's
because
already-
Jack is going to retweet the poll, and everyone's going to vote for Sound Euphonium. So like
The
spring
UFO
was-
shooters are coming out swinging. It's not looking good.
He also just has the best draft so far, so like I don't know how we're gonna be though. It's brutal.
Ian, you need to get those bots in again.
Yeah,
Yeah, I need to find them. I
bots
need to
come
find the
back.
people who
Ian
voted
bots.
for me, the bots that voted for me, and just get a few more of them next time.
I think it'll be good to put the UFO fans against the Mushoku Tensei fans for next season, so we can see World War II happen over.
That is the thing.
Over the polls.
There are so many Mushoku Tensei fans. Can they overpower? I don't think they can because Jack is the ringleader of UFO Twitter,
Yeah.
and so he can just get
Yeah.
all of them to come and vote. But we'll see. Carter and I guess, are now having a competition of maybe we can finish in second one time. That'd be fun. But again, thank you guys for joining me. Carter, thank you for hopping in here at the end. You were flamed a little bit at the beginning of this. You'll have to.
You and replay.
You were
I said
both.
your voters are where at the same place as you guys, not here.
Yes,
Valid,
you were
valid.
in the same place as the solo leveling fans were when we voted. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, the audience, for watching, and we will see you next time in most likely the spring recap, but maybe this summer anime draft. Maybe Carter and I can pick a good team in summer. We'll see. Oh. Goodness me. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.